All right, let's get right into this. Something pretty explosive just went down in Baja California. You've got two huge events that basically collided within days of each other. First, a revolutionary new megaport gets the green light, and then, almost immediately, the very politician who dreamed it up in the first place finds himself in serious legal trouble. So the big question we have to ask is, what if this isn't just some crazy coincidence? What if it's a perfectly calculated, high-stakes political power play?
I mean, just look at this timeline. It is incredibly tight. Between September 5th and 6th, the Mexican government gives the final go-ahead for Punta Colonet. This is a project that could literally redefine trade in North America, and then, bam, just 2 days later, September 8th, an arrest warrant is confirmed for Ernesto Ruffo Epel, the former governor who was the project's original champion. The timing here is, well, it's almost a little too perfect, isn't it?
So this really forces us to ask the one central question that's driving this whole explainer. Are these two massive events completely unrelated? Just some bizarre twist of fate? Or are we actually watching a brilliantly executed political maneuver, one designed to seize total control of one of the most strategic assets in the entire hemisphere?
Okay, so to really understand the stakes here, we have to get a handle on the sheer scale of this thing. Punta Colonet isn't just, another port. It's being talked about as the crown jewel of trade for the whole continent.
So what is it exactly? Well, Punta Colonet is a massive deep-water megaport planned for the coast of Baja California, and its location is key. It's just 240 kilometers south of the U.S. border. The whole idea is for it to act as a kind of giant relief valve for the ports of LA and Long Beach, which, as you know, are almost always jammed up. This would create a brand new, super efficient pipeline for all those goods coming in from Asia.
And the money involved? It's just immense. The project is expected to pump $10 billion into the economy every single year. Let that number sink in. That's the kind of capital that can completely transform an entire region's economy. We're talking about a nation-building level of investment.
And if you really want to grasp the ambition here, get this. Punta Colonet is designed to be 10 times larger than Manzanillo, which is currently Mexico's busiest port. So we are talking about a facility on a scale that the country has never, ever seen before.
But this project has had a really long and bumpy road. It was first thought up way back in the 90s by Governor Ernesto Ruffo, who was from the center-right PAN party. By 2006, you had global giants like Hutchison Ports fighting for a piece of the action. But then, in 2008, the whole thing just got canceled. It sat on a shelf for years, until 2022, when it was brought back to life by the current governor, Marina del Pilar Avila, who's from the ruling Marina party, and that all led to this year's final green light. You see that shift in political power? That's really important.
So how do all these pieces fit together? Well, in Mexican politics, there's this old saying that is absolutely key to understanding what might be happening. The form is the substance. It means the timing, the signals, the way things are announced, that's all part of the message. So let's start connecting the dots.
When our source analysis breaks this down, it really comes down to two competing ideas. The theory that this is all just a random coincidence? Well, that's given only a 25% chance. But the hypothesis that this was a deliberate, calculated political move, that's considered highly likely with a 75% probability. The numbers speak for themselves. So what's the evidence for this political playbook? Well, first, you've got that synchronized timing. Dropping these announcements within a 2 to 3 day window creates maximum media shock and awe. Second, it neutralizes a political rival. By going after Ruffo, who is the project's symbolic father, the current government effectively silences a powerful critic who could either claim credit or attack how they're handling his legacy. And third, it's really all about consolidating control. These moves clear the board for the Morena party to claim this historic project, lock, stock, and barrel, as their own. But this story doesn't just stop with Mexican domestic politics. Oh no. The question of who controls this port has implications that ripple all the way to Washington, D.C. It raises some really serious questions about whether this project could accidentally become a Trojan horse right on America's doorstep. And the key player at the very center of all these concerns is a company called Hutchison Ports. Now, these guys are a massive Hong Kong-based global operator, and this is the crucial part, they have well-established ties to the Chinese government. They were sniffing around this project back in 2006, and despite some recent friction, believe me, they are still very much in the picture. So what are the specific risks if a company like Hutchison gets control? Well, U.S. intelligence has been worried about this for a while. There's an 80% assessed risk of espionage, the ability to monitor sensitive military and commercial cargoes so close to the border. Then there's a 70% risk of supply chain disruption. Think about it, the power to just turn off the tap on essential goods during a crisis. And finally, there's a 60% risk of a major hit to U.S. geopolitical influence, with China making such a massive strategic investment in the region.
Now, if we look at the possible futures for who controls this port, the analysis points to a pretty clear trend. The most likely scenario, sitting at 60%, is that Hutchinson becomes a partner with the Mexican state-run entity. The worst-case scenario? They dominate the port, completely. And the best case, at least from a U.S. perspective, where an American partner is chosen instead, that's seen as the least likely outcome, at just 15%.
So after all of that, where does this leave us? Let's try to bring together the signals, the enormous stakes, and the big questions that are still hanging in the air in our final verdict.
It really all comes back to that core idea we talked about, something you hear all the time. In Mexican politics, there are no coincidences. The fundamental assumption is that in a game with stakes this high, the signals, the timing, the optics, they always tell the real story.
And so the conclusion here is pretty stark. The incredibly close timing of the port's approval and the founder's arrest, that isn't just smoke, it's a fire. It's a clear signal, a message of power. It's a masterstroke designed to take a rival off the board, consolidate control, and completely rewrite the history of a project with immense strategic importance.
Which leaves us with one final huge question. Is Punta Colonet going to be the bridge to North America's economic future that everyone hoped for? Or, in this ruthless game of political chess, has the gate just been thrown wide open for a geopolitical Trojan horse? That right there is the multi-billion-dollar question.